Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minion with me this evening, at least thus far, is Adam.
Hello.
And as it is a Friday, once again, I am the keeper for this evening, Sanguine. How are you doing tonight, Adam?
I'm doing all right. Glad it's Friday. Although
Yep,
this week kind of flew by kind of fast. But how about you? How you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. We might end up getting joined by Inquisitor if everything works out, and we might get joined by Skeptock, though he was ambushed by grandchildren shortly before the stream, so if he does show up, he'll be a bit late. But
Those pesky grandchildren just ambushing out of the bushes.
yep, I'm doing fantastic. I just had a absolutely delicious dinner not terribly long ago, which was some spiced shrimp, quickly sautéed, a quick sauce of shoyu, some togarashi, a few more Asian spices thrown in, served on top of a butter rice bowl with some kimchi and some garlic bok choy. It was absolutely delicious. I had a couple shoes of sake, a Hachino Nest white ale, which is delicious, slightly soured ale, which is nice. When it's intentionally slightly soured, it's really nice. And this one is an intentionally slightly soured ale.
Hmm.
It's beautiful. And then I had a finger of Harazaki small batch with
Okay. So, adjusted for size, I guess. Should say finger.
yes. As we were talking about yesterday, my pinkies are about as big as Johnny Hellcat's ring finger.
Wait, you said that yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday I was on air with Johnny, and then we were playing a few
What?
games.
Hold
Yep,
on. How
yeah, I was
come
on the Thursday show.
Johnny, you ain't contacting me?
You didn't contact him either. I've let
Well,
him
that's
know
true.
that I'm willing to be on Thursdays.
No, that's true. In all
But
fairness.
yeah, we were playing games and just bullshitting, and the size of my hands came up in conversation. So I asked if anyone knew their ring sizes. Johnny knew his ring finger was about an 11 because he has his wedding band. My pinkies are 11s. Every
Yeesh.
other finger on my hand substantially larger than my pinkies. So, yeah, I ended up talking about how, yeah, my fingers, my smallest finger is the size of your ring finger. And the rest of my fingers, I need to get custom order rings for the most part. Just because you suck at the game does not mean that I'm cheating. And responding to Dr. Funkenstein's ghost, also known as Tyr. I won the games, I won fair and square. Though I'm still rather pissed off that I didn't make it out alive that one game of Murder Party. There was a game that ended up blitzing past everyone at the very end, and then I would, in order to exit, you have to get all the answers right. And my mouse is fucking dying, so it's doing that thing where you'll click once and it'll double click.
Yee.
So there were several answers that I was clicking the answer, and then I'd click submit because I knew what the answer was. But one of the times that I clicked, it would double click. So it would click the answer in, click the answer out, and then I'd click submit, and then I'd get an answer wrong because it clicked an answer off. And I'm just going, you son of a bitch, just let me answer the fucking question. But yeah, otherwise, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I had a very good dinner and just been enjoying my night thus far. Then there's some interesting stories that have been happening recently. There's one that if Skep is able to show up, I kind of want him to weigh in on because I know he's as much of a history nerd as we are in many respects. And there's the topic of the Netflix Cleopatra documentary, which have you heard about that one?
Uh, yeah, I think I scared, or not scared, but was off-putted when I brought it up on Monday randomly. Um, with but there was a whole Zahi Hawass type of thing going with the Egypt and suing
Yeah, it's
Netflix and
the
all
We
that.
Was Kangs versus Egypt.
Yep.
And that's something that, like I said, we'll hold off on that until a bit later in show on the off chance that Skep is able to join in tonight. Because I think he would enjoy bullshitting about what the fuck is going on with this. It's absolutely infuriating that they keep on doing this. They keep on changing historical figures. But
Well, I mean, who better to know than Skeptock, who I believe he said he served on one of the triremes that surrounded Alexandria
he met
for the
Cleopatra firsthand, yes.
yeah. So I mean, I would take his word over some people who apparently went to a fortune teller and said that you're Cleopatra.
Yep. Yeah, it's
She found the same fortune teller that Tom Hanks found.
nice.
Oh
It's
shit.
just absolutely infuriating how many times this happens. Of we have a historical character. They were black. No, they weren't. What the fuck? But we'll get into that in full later on. Then there's also the Tucker Carlson thing of he's been let loose from Fox, which you heard about, right?
Yes. um. Okay. So, uh, I think I saw a tweet earlier where I think it exemplifies it perfectly. Where it was like, um, I'm tired of hearing all about Steven Crowder. You know, it's everything on the news feed. And somebody was like, well, uh, they responded, well, last week it was all about, the kid getting shot going to the wrong house. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, dude, are, are you people not recognizing this shit yet?
Which that case
How,
was some absolute. That case is being spun into a hell of a lot of bullshit because you know
yo,
the entire story of that case, right?
I know, um, I know what they've shown, but at the same end, it's one of those things where it's like, is this a case that, and I'm pretty sure, oh my god, and you're hate, no, but like, is this really a case that deserves like such national scrutiny that it
Especially
ate
when
the
there's
news for
the
a
other
whole week?
case of the dude shooting a 6-year-old because a ball
For the
rolled into
ball
his
ruling,
yard.
or even yeah, or even at I think it was the same thing where it was like some lady pulled into a parking spot. Like the thing like the main thing is how crazy it is that one week they're looking at it as holy shit, this dude just shot through a door and shot this person because he went to the wrong address. And then this week it's it's fucking this. Like the
It's
media,
infuriating.
the news media is obviously deranged at this point,
Yep.
you know. Um I don't know what else to say. Especially look at how many all these people that are resigning or losing their jobs from these places, you know. It's
Oh, and that was another story that came out recently. The Bud Light ad exec and then 2 other people from the ad department got sacked, which is good news in my opinion.
Well, they chose poorly.
Yeah,
So you can't really
they chose
fault them
very
on it.
poorly. But it's this constant just stories that should be talked about are ignored in large part, and things that don't fucking matter are talked about endlessly. Because when it comes to the case of the kid who got shot through the door, that's something that, yeah, the courts will have to decide. Did the old man think that his house was being broken into? Because if he believed that his house was being broken into, and if that was a reasonable belief, and what I mean by reasonable belief is that a reasonable person in his stead would also come to the same conclusion, then, yeah, old dude did nothing wrong. He's perfectly fine. If it's something that is unreasonable, then yeah, clearly old dude did something fucked up. But that's something that will come out as it's being talked about in court. Trying to say, well, he was clearly a racist. No, there's no evidence that the dude's a racist. Well, his grandson said that he watched Fox News. So? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? It pisses me off that these absolute nothings are being talked about, whereas things that actually matter. The child getting shot for a ball rolling into someone's yard matters a hell of a lot more than someone showing up to the wrong house. Old man thinks that they might be robbing them and shoots them through the door. There's far less malice in that second scenario than there was in the first. The Crowder shit is interesting to a certain extent because it shows that there is an element of hypocrisy about Crowder when it comes down to it, since he absolutely went off on the Daily Wire saying that they were doing all kinds of ridiculous shit when it came to their contract, and then he does a worse contract. Hello, Inquisitor, how goes?
Hey, I watched a video. It's going okay. I watched a video of a woman spitting on another woman and then getting her ass kicked. And the entire time she's like screaming out, "Sorry, sorry, sorry!" And I saw a comment in there that I'm going to incorporate into part of my vernacular, where I'm just going to say, "This is a beating, not BDSM. There's no such thing as safe words."
Yep. And that's the thing. When someone spits on you, decking them is a proper response. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
absolutely.
have absolutely no problem with that. It's one of the things that started to drive me crazy towards the end of me serving as a correction officer. There were people that were legitimately trying to downgrade the... Have you ever heard the term gassing when it comes to prisons?
Term what?
Gassing.
Gassing in prison.
You mean like firing tear gas or something like that into a cell?
No, that we have to refer to as
do you
chemical.
mean maybe like a cellmate passes gas and it's really bad?
One of the ways, or one of the things that gassing refers to, and it's pretty much the only thing that gassing would refer to in prison, is a offender saves like a milk carton. And they have a little bit of milk in there that they allow to spoil. They shit and piss into this milk carton. And then they really just kind of hammer shut the end of it so that it's very fine. They shove it between a gap in a door. and as a correction officer is coming through, they crush it so that it's
like
great.
biological warfare. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
The officer on.
There's way more ways to do it than just stuff like that. I say I've got my roommate's brother is also a corrections officer, and you would not believe how creative some inmates get when it comes to biological warfare that they try to wage against corrections officers.
Oh yeah, they do all kinds of fucked up shit. But there were people that were actively trying to get gassing downgraded because it was considered an assault of an officer, as it fucking should be.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, even just spitting on someone is assault. It is provocation through non-violent measures.
Yep. And there were people that were trying to get that downgraded. When that is assault. That is something.
Yeah, it is. That's
hard.
By its definition, it's assault. Yes.
Yeah. It's fucked up shit, and it shouldn't be.
In fact, actually, it's significantly more harmful than just usually assault charges usually are. I would say that that's even straddling the line of like battery. Whereas spitting on someone, I mean, there is risks, like biological risks involved, but
it depends on the state because some states have a distinction between assault and battery, where assault is the threat of violence, battery is the actual
violence. Yes,
act of violence. Then there's other states where there is no distinction, and assault will be the charge when someone has actively.
I could have sworn that every state adopted the distinction between assault and battery.
New York, for instance, when you actually hit someone, that's considered assault.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say, like I said, I could have sworn that was like that became not federal statute, but it became something that was adopted from all 50 states, that there was a distinction between assault and battery.
It's not all 50, but it is a majority of the states do recognize the difference between assault and battery. There are some states that they swap them, and there's some states that they don't have any designation. They don't have any distinction between the two, and they're interchangeable terms. So, like I said, if I remember correctly, it's New York. When you punch someone, that's assault.
Well, this is from the Cornell Law Institute. Assault and battery is a modern legal term which combines assault with the separate charge of battery. Assault refers to the wrong act of causing someone to reasonably fear imminent harm. This means that the fear must be something a reasonable person would foresee as threatening to them. Battery refers to the actual wrong act of physically harming someone. These are the terms as they've been historically used, but in modern context, they can mean different versions of causing harm. For example, the term assault in state statutes can refer to common law assault, battery, or both simultaneously. Also, assault and battery can refer to a tort charge or a criminal charge, and the factors and definitions of the assault differ depending on the type of charge. For more information on individual charges, see assault here and battery here. So it's weird. There's like some places that have them be separate, and some places that have them be the same, and
there's a few places that actually have them swapped, if I remember correctly. But there's absolutely places that have them clearly defined, where assault is the threat of violence and battery is the violence.
Well, I mean, that's the legal definition of them. And then, then it just comes down to, well, no, again, this is from Cornell Law School, that's the legal definition of assault and battery. It's just that some states, they enforce it in different ways.
And again, when you read that full definition, it said that this can change from area to area, where in some areas assault is synonymous with battery, which
it says
is
in modern
the legal definition in that area.
It says in modern context, they can be different versions of causing harm. For example, the term assault in some state statutes can refer to common law assault, battery, or both simultaneously. So in some state statutes, it can
which is
like assault.
The legal definition within those states, which
is why some people, when they say assault, sometimes they mean battery, but in their state, assault means assault and battery.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why I brought that up, as it depends on the area what the actual definition is, because gassing should be considered battery in the states that separate assault and battery. It would be considered.
It absolutely should, yes.
In the states where it.
Well, it's because there's a reasonable assumption of harm. Like if you have even like a scratch or something like that,
as you said,
you can get a wound infected by something like that. You know, spit. It's much more difficult to try and prove that there was imminent harm involved in spitting on someone, but the threat of violence was absolutely there when they did it.
Yeah, and there's certain things that you can transmit through spit. So, again, I view that as someone spits on you, fucking deck them.
Oh yeah, no, you and I do not disagree on that at all. I was just thinking that it's a bit harder to prove imminent harm for battery with spit, but something like someone doing intentional shit. Rotten milk, piss, all these kinds of things, actual biological harm and particulates and so on and so forth that can cause infections or even disease spreading. Yeah, that's absolutely battery.
Yep. And it was absolutely infuriating that, like I said, there were people that were trying to downgrade those charges.
Well, I just think that some states need to bring back capital punishment for that kind of stuff, man.
Oh yeah.
You got some belligerent fucking people. Not only do they get solitary, but they get 5 minutes in a closet with the cameras turned off, with the guard that they wronged and a nightstick and their handcuffs.
It royally pisses me off, the shit that I saw when I was in corrections. I've told you guys about it, how once a month we had a female CO that was walked and locked. And I've told you guys what walked and locked means, right?
I'm assuming by context it means someone who is, in handcuffs for both their wrists and ankles.
So walked and locked, when it comes to a correction term, walked and locked means that someone has been escorted out of the facility and all of their IDs, the shit that they were given by the DOC, all of that crap was stripped from them. So that they are barred from ever entering a prison.
Walk of shame and locked out. Okay.
Again. So they're walked and locked. And we would have at least one female CO, or rather, on average, one female CO walked and locked every single month I was a correction officer.
Why? Is it because they started fraternizing with the inmates or something?
Sucking, fucking, blowing.
Oh my god.
Right,
the inmates?
Smuggling.
The inmates or each other?
It was the inmates. They would suck,
why?
Smuggle for inmates. And it was at least, or rather, again, on average one, not quite at least one, because I think I might have had 1 month where I didn't have any, and then the next month I had 2. But on average, at least one a month the entire time I was working as a correction officer. And the thing that pissed all of us off was throughout Corrections Academy, they really hammered into us that if you're found having committed sexual impropriety, which they stress there is no consensual sex in prison.
Mm-hmm. Well, except for conjugal visits.
Well, conjugal visits aren't allowed in the state that I'm in.
Ah.
So there is no consensual sex in prison.
So you know what that means, people. Don't commit crimes in Minnesota. Uh-oh. Oh no, Sanguine's gone. Am I the... Hello everyone, welcome to the zoo.
What happened to Sanguine?
I have no idea.
Oh, jeez. Well, I suppose it's up to us to maintain the fort until he returns, right?
Yeah, and I sincerely hope he does, because I can't stop the stream.
Neither I don't think. Could I?
I think it'll run until like it gets turned off.
Are there storms going up over there? Or?
I have no idea. Not here, but I mean, you're not too far away from me, so.
Yeah, no, it was pretty nice out today, so.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Welcome everybody in the
he was about to tell us something juicy and they cut him off.
Yeah. Oh shit. You see?
Keeper Dam killed him. How dare you, Keeper Dam?
She did join the show right as he cut off, so maybe there's a there. Or not. I don't know. Yeah. So how you been, man?
I'm alright, how about you?
I'm doing alright. Fucking
I say I gotta stay at work here until about midnight, and then I get to go home. But then I gotta go to a training thing tomorrow.
another one?
Yeah, it's the last one. Doing the Department of Transportation hazardous material training. Yeah, but after that, then we're all good.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah. James Cowley, I won't ask why. I'll just ask for the dad jokes.
Wait.
Sorry about that. Internet.
There he is. He's back. Keeper, your assassination attempt did not take. He's back.
It failed.
He found his phylactery and he is back.
Yep. So when it comes to conjugal visits, those were phased out in the state that I worked in a few years ago. And the last time that a conjugal shack was used, it was used as a quasi-halfway, quasi-sting, because there was a chomo that was due to be released on probation to halfway house. No halfway house would take him. And everyone at the prison went, this dude is going to reoffend. This dude is absolutely a chomo. He's been putting on an act. So they turned one of the conjugal shacks into a halfway home for him. And they then got evidence that, oh yeah, dude was still an unrepentant chomo. So he was then sent back inside the walls, which was a really fucking good thing. But
JB, the channel that you are talking about, is that the one dude that did the whole, like, he's not just a life coach, but he's also a comedian. Talking about Mango Snapple. The Mango Snapple video, is that the one that you're talking about?
Such as Mako.
I love that. I love that guy, man. He's so funny.
And yeah, Chomos should be bound for wood chipper. Chomos have a ridiculously low rate of rehabilitation. So it's almost a 100% recidivism rate for Chomos. There are
that's the point. Is that's what did they feed you every day for lunch when you were in the corrections facility? Mango Snapple.
Yep. Yeah, there's a horrendous thing that, like I said, Chomos have almost a 100% recidivism rate. There's certain crimes that when someone commits, they should just be removed from society as a whole. Now,
well, I mean,
two ways of doing that: life or execution.
I don't see why that sort of thing is punished as lightly as it is. I mean, you would think that the damage commiserate to the crime committed, that the punishment should be much more severe.
Oh yeah,
than
absolutely.
It is. I mean, there's other ways that you can have mitigating circumstances, like Romeo and Juliet laws and stuff like that, for stuff that's a bit more permissible. But I mean, the statute when it comes to punishment for some of these crimes it's just so light compared to other things.
Then you have places like California with its 10-year law, and you have the UN with its "should we really be arresting Chomos" thing, because you heard about that, right, Inquisitor?
No.
The UN,
the recent one, right?
Yeah, the UN Human Rights Commission came out and said that we need to redo the world needs to redo its perspective of criminal justice when it comes to sex violations. And specifically, it needs to look at its laws because it's wrong from the perspective of the UN to criminalize an act that would otherwise be legal just because of minor things like race, sex, age, and that it's cruel and unusual to sentence people to prison. And we need to reevaluate our laws so that we can fix them in order to respect the variable level of, what was their phrasing? It was the variable level of maturity among people that are below the arbitrary age of consent.
Were the people that were heading up this committee people from countries where sister wives and arranged marriages where 12-year-olds get married to 30-year-old men? A lot of places in the Middle East and China, and all those kinds of people were heading this organization.
Even better, many of the major proponents were from countries where it is a common practice to fuck a baby in order to try to cure yourself of AIDS. Because they were from countries that for the longest time had the idea that, the way that you cure yourself of HIV is you fuck a virgin. So they started running out of virgins.
Wow.
And they started looking younger and younger in order to find them. It is absolutely horrendous, the shit that these people were saying. And like I said, they were trying to couch it in this, we need to be aware of the variable maturity of individuals that are beneath the age of consent, which is just an arbitrary number that we came up with as a society. Go fuck yourself. That's the shit that pisses me off.
I say, when people talk about the arbitrary, number, it is arbitrary. But you know what the reason why it's arbitrary is because it's a safe number. It's a safe number to say that, yeah, you have to draw the line somewhere, and that line at 18 is safe enough that a person, no 18-year-old is in their right mind at all. All 18-year-olds are fucking retarded. Same with all 20-year-olds, all 22, 23-year-olds. But drinking age is still 21 because we need to have an arbitrary number. It's just that at that age, you can be assumed to know the consequences of your actions.
Yep, and it's one of those things that we're kind of balancing mental maturity and the greatest rate of pregnancy success at the same time. Because, yeah, if we bumped it up to 25, the age where the brain is at full maturity, then...
No, there's no way that most 25-year-olds are not at fully mature at 25.
Technically, their brain has reached maturity.
Brain maturity is not the same as maturity.
Yes, I would absolutely...
I know for a fact I was absolutely not mature at 25. I was a fucking idiot at 25.
I would absolutely agree with that, but that's the point of brain maturity. And the problem is that if you do that, well, you've just drastically cut down the window of successful pregnancy.
I mean, Dr. Funkenstein's ghost brings up the should be able to, or if you can die for your country, you should be able to, drink and all that kind of stuff. I agree, but at the same time, I also think that 18 is entirely too young to die for your country, too. I understand for people that want to volunteer for the military that 18 is probably a perfect age. You're getting out of high school. It's a good career move for some people. But also, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'll keep repeating. All 18-year-olds are fucking retarded.
See, I'm of the mind where we've made all 18-year-olds fucking retarded. Because we've handicap them as much as we possibly can. When you remove all sense of responsibility from a group, can you really be surprised when that group seems to lack any real recognition of what the fuck's going on? I
went over this with Shady a little bit earlier today, more just like a stream of consciousness. I just DM'd at him. It was a sort of things like going back into, what kind of caused this sort of rift with a lot of young people. And I think it was our generation and our parents that kind of fucked us up. And it's just kind of trickled down as it's gone on, and it's just snowballed and gotten bigger. Because I think a lot of the people that were in the 90s, a lot of kids that were in the 90s got misdiagnosed with ADD and ADHD, and it started this whole huge, bullshit about parents over-medicating and overly relying on doctors to do parenting because kids are just trying to be kids and are being, told that that's not right. Which also then led to kids then now identifying with their ADHD so that they don't get bullied at school and stuff like that. So now it became the cool thing to have a quirk, some sort of trait that you can't control. So you sit there and say, well, I have ADHD, I have Asperger's, I have autism, I have blah, blah, blah. And that just kept on snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. And that's now why we have non-binary. Now that's why we have all this other kind of stuff. And it's not necessarily, I think, because a lot of people like to boil it down to it's just me trying to be special. No. That's not it at all. It's much more juvenile than that. It is much more childish than that. because now when you self-diagnose, when you have this trait that you can't control, that you now have said that you have, whether you do or don't, doesn't matter, okay? It has ameliorated your responsibility for your actions.
And that's
you can sit there and say,
what I have.
You can sit there and say, I don't have a problem here. You know, it's not my fault. It's my ADHD. So it's all like, at what point can we hold the person responsible for their actions? Where's the accountability there?
Yeah, and
you know,
you guys can attest to this because we've talked to each other for fucking years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually have an Asperger's diagnosis, and I have a properly done Asperger's diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I've always talked about it when it comes to shit is I'll go, hey, I might get this wrong because I have this issue, but this is what I'm currently working on. If there's something that I'm missing, let me know. I don't use it as a, well, you can't be mad at me because I have Asperger's syndrome. I didn't understand because I have Asperger's syndrome. I go, oh shit, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, you don't use your a diagnosis as a crutch. It makes it challenging sometimes to talk to you because you get hyper focused on some things, but at the same time, I know that about you. So it's like I can expect that, and that's the sort of situation where when you know those kinds of things about people, they're going to work their best at trying to be socially candorous, and you're going to do your best to accommodate those sorts of things into your normal social situations. I get that. But there is far too many people that like to use their traits as an ablative armor. Why they're blameless.
Something that has pissed me off, and I've talked about this I don't know how many times, that the people that I hate the most are anyone that tries to do one of two things. Anyone that tries to use a disability or demographic characteristic as their personality, full stop. Because there's so many fucking people that I have Asperger's, and that's their entire fucking personality. They have absolutely nothing beyond I have Asperger's syndrome. How the fuck do you have a disorder that encourages, goddamn near necessitates you have obsessive interests in shit, and your entire personality is summed up by I have Asperger's syndrome? No. Your personality, if you have Asperger's syndrome and that is massively affecting your personality, it should be summed up less with I have Asperger's syndrome and more by I found this thing really fucking cool and now I can't stop talking about it, so I'm just going to tell you everything about it. Do you know that the Utah Raptor claw is larger than the Velociraptor claw? Because the Utah Raptor claw is about 18 inches from the tip of the claw to the back end of it, and that's when it's not straightened out. That's the curve of the Utah Raptor claw from the very tip to the very root of the claw will be about 18 inches, whereas a Velociraptor claw would be more around like 6 to 8 inches. So the Utah Raptor claw is substantially fucking larger than the Velociraptor claw. And did you know that the...
Your analogy's going on a little too long, my guy.
Because I'm using the actual...
I know.
That I have. Because
I know
that should be what your personality
is.
It should be this. Yeah. This person is just entirely engrossed in these topics. If the person comes up to you and goes, do you know that one of the only uniquely Roman gods in the Roman pantheon was Janus, and Janus was actually the chief deity of the Roman pantheon before they started to fully accept the Grecian pantheon, and then it became Jupiter, the Roman version of Zeus, that became the chief deity, and Janus just became the main advisor deity to Jupiter, and Janus was the god of crossroads and the god of choices, so every time that you had an important decision in your life, you would pray to Janus for proper guidance. That would be spurgery.
Yes.
Spurgery's not.
Oh,
I'm
dude.
an asshole, so you can't blame me. Fuck you. I'm a spurg. That's not spurgery.
The problem really does come down to the fact that self-diagnosis is a thing. I mean, going back to what I was saying before about the whole ADD, ADHD getting overdiagnosed, is that now people don't need to go to the doctor for that kind of thing. They can look it up on WebD, just find quirky little things that are not necessarily, debilitating or anything that you need to take medication for. You're not going to the doctor to curb your Asperger's syndrome or anything like that. So instead, they use those sorts of things to get away with being a child. And that's the problem, is that these people are essentially lying to get the ablative ability to say, I can be absolved of all of my responsibility.
And that's the second aspect that pisses me off the most. Like I said, two things that piss me off the most: when someone makes their entire personality something that isn't a personality characteristic.
Yeah.
And when someone uses because I'm X group as an absolution for whatever fucked up shit they do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm part of this demographic. Who the fuck gives a shit what demographic you're part of? No one should give a shit.
The big thing that you do when it comes to stuff like that is that you work on yourself first. You should never be using that as it can't be helped, I'm just the way that I am. No. That's not the way society works. Society does not cater to you. You cater yourself to society. So when you are being a dickhead, you are not absolved of being a dickhead because of your fake, non-actual diagnosed bipolar disorder. You're just being a dickhead at that point. And more people need to call that shit out, in my opinion.
And to go
because a real person with bipolar would actually sit there and say, and try to incorporate their lives and work around their disease to not inconvenience others.
Yep.
Okay.
And to go back to what I said earlier, the way that I talk about having Asperger's syndrome to you guys was, hey, that's a heads up. I have Asperger's syndrome. I'll probably miss facial expressions. I'll probably miss shit like that. I'm going to try to learn it. I'm going to try to learn what it means when you have this tone of voice or that facial expression. It'll take time. I'm going to fuck it up here and there. But when I fuck it up, let me know. It's just I'm going to start out sucking at that. And I have to learn each person's facial expressions individually. I have to learn each person's intonation individually.
Yeah.
It isn't a, well, I've dealt with people before. It's, no. Okay, this is what Inquisitors' facial expressions are when they're going through this shit. This is what Adam's facial expressions are when they're going through this shit. This is the tone of voice that they use for each of these things. And I have to learn that person by person. And I let people know as a heads up when that's happening. I don't miss something and then go, well, it's not my fault. I have Asperger's syndrome. Fuck you.
Yeah. I'll say, speaking of in the chat here, Frosted Glass says, first said, I don't want special treatment because I'm a spurg. I just don't want people to think I'm an idiot for misinterpreting social shit. And see, that's the thing, man. If the problem is legitimate, people will make the accommodation, but the phonies are so easy to find. It's just that what is the outside perspective? I mean, this is the sort of thing. There's a great podcast. I make no secret that I really like a lot of the old Newgrounds animators. And they used to have a podcast called Sleepy Cast, the Sleepy Cabin podcast. And in one of them, an artist from Newgrounds, her name was, her online handle is Sabtastic. Sabtastic. She was talking about this story about how she essentially like got a stalker, but the stalker would use all of like these like medical things, like she had. Well, she had like a legit thing where she would get panic attacks and have like petite mal seizures because of her panic attacks, and it got to the point where her parents were just completely over it. Like when it first happened, she freaked out and called this girl's parents, and the parents were like, "Oh yeah, she's got pills for that. She'll walk it off." And so like it's bad because you see these people, they're trying to get the attention that they want. They're not getting it from their parents because they've been doing it for so long. So then they reach outwards, right? And so then she starts doing that with Sab, and then it just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And one of the things that happened to her once is that she was selling art at a convention, and this girl that had kind of latched herself to Sab goes and like throws herself down the stairs specifically so that she can be all like, "I need help. Go get my help from my friend Sab." And then all these people come over and start trying to find him. I'll be right back, guys. 1 second.
Yep. It's kind of like when I was in EMT. There were times when I would. One time in particular, which I found very interesting. I was in the ambulance driving down the street with my partner for the day, and as we're driving, we stop at a red light, and I'm just kind of looking around, and there's a person sitting on a bench, and I see the person go into full-blown seizure on the bench. I pointed out to my partner, we hop out of the ambulance, we go to talk to the person, see what's going on, see if they need help. And the person, once their seizure passes, looks at us and goes, "Oh shit, sorry. I thought I took my meds this morning. I must have forgotten. I have them in my purse. I'll just take them. I'll be fine." Because they knew that they had a seizure disorder. They just forgot to take their meds that day. And it was something that they were slightly embarrassed about, that, oh God, I made this massive spectacle of myself, when it was just, yeah, I forgot to take my meds. Sorry, man. And that's when someone actually has something. So many people will act like, oh my God, I have all these problems. When no, they don't. It's absolute horseshit what they're saying, because they're trying to just make themselves into this special person. People that actually have Asperger's syndrome and don't make Asperger's syndrome the sum total of their personality, they have this view of, yeah, I'm a person who has this. I'm not a person who is this. And there's a massive difference between that. If someone came out with a treatment tomorrow that cured Asperger's syndrome and suddenly gave me the ability to recognize facial expression in the way that normal people recognize facial expression, I'd be the first motherfucker in line. I would fist fight in order to get to the front of that goddamn line. Because fuck you, that's amazing.
I mean, in terms of the seizure bit, I mean, I don't know. Just missing, I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm, I guess, relatively new to this experience, but I definitely notice if I miss like an afternoon pill taken. Uh, it, it's noticeable.
Fair enough. And it might be that different people are more sensitive to that than others.
Yeah, for sure. And they. So I don't know. I don't know. I could also be because, um, seizures are no joke, pretty scary shit. So
they aren't fun. I
yeah.
was killed fucking 4 times.
Yeah. I say, and sorry, I had to leave for work here for a second, but I'm back now. The major thing that I was trying to get at with it is that it's very easy, very very easy to tell who the fakers are and who the people that actually really suffer from this stuff are, because the people that really suffer from it do not want to suffer from it. They don't see it as something to be proud of or to shout from the hills. They're the people that would sit there and say, if I could trade this trait about myself for not having to deal with that, I would do so in an instant.
Yep. And this is something that pisses, like I said, the people that identify with their disability that will utter shit like, oh, you're trying to cure this? You're trying to commit a genocide. Fuck you.
Hey,
If
in all
you've
fairness, it
ever
works
thought about
wonders.
that, if
I
you've ever...
Come on, when I go to White Castle and I order a fucking crave case and I say, dude, I don't want any onions on any of those fucking burgers, and they give me lip, I'm like, dude, I have epilepsy, okay? Don't get me started. You don't want me shaking and grooving on the floor over there because you're gonna fucking add some onions to the fucking burgers.
The onions have nothing to do with that. In fact,
I won't allow it.
Your avoidance of onions has more correlation to it than having onions.
I don't want to cause a scene, sir.
That's the reason why you're doing your best combination of a fish out of water and Michael J. Fox.
Whoa, Marty, hold on.
Is because you've been avoiding onions so religiously.
Look,
maybe if you had onions, you would spend less time flopping around on the ground.
And they better add some extra fucking Dijon mustard in there, or I'm extra.
Ew. I'd rather have onions than Dijon mustard. Ew. Adam, this is an untapped market for us, man.
What?
We can get so much more shit if we just use your seizures.
Yeah, let's go. Hey. You don't want any trouble there, lady. Just thanks. Or I'm going to start
Or I'm going to have a seizure.
Your artwork, it's just a bunch of scribbles.
Hey, I think he's bluffing. I don't know. Oh, you think I'm bluffing?
But, yeah, it pisses me off every time that I hear someone say, oh, you want to cure autism? You're trying to commit genocide. Fuck you. Fuck you. If those words have ever left your mouth as anything other than a condemnation for that fucking idea, fuck you. And I say that from the deepest reaches of my fucking soul.
I'm sorry, we found something saying I'm passionate about, guys. And say, because I've had this opinion for the longest time that the people that do these sorts of things are doing so just for extremely selfish reasons, and are the people that are doing the most harm to people that actually suffer from these diseases, more so than the disease itself. Frosted Glass said here earlier, it'd be nice not having the constant anxiety because you feel like you handle most social situations wrong. I say, and the problem is not with you, man. It's not with you. It's with all of the fakers that want to come out and try to say that they're just being quirky because they have those sorts of things. They're the ones that are doing more harm than this than it is you.
Yeah, it's a cure is not a genocide.
No,
I
Whoa,
am
have you
not.
heard any
a
of
cure is a cure.
Yeah, I'm not Asperger's syndrome. I'm a person who has fucking Asperger's syndrome.
There you go.
And
There you go.
I would much rather not have Asperger's syndrome than have it. It pisses me off every time that I hear some fucker do the, oh, you're trying to cure this? That just means that you want to get rid of all the people with it. No, it means that you
Yeah, like,
remove
and
that burden. There would
yeah, it's like the whole thing about ableism and stuff. Like, oh, you want to cure people of blindness? That makes you ableist. I'm like, no, that makes you Christ-like. You're trying to cure blindness, my guy. Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, you got a cure for scoliosis? Oh, so you don't want anybody to, you want to genocide the. Well, I don't think they want to be fucking suffering under scoliosis.
Yeah, I don't think they want their spines broken, my guy.
Holy
Are
shit.
you kidding me? You fucking stupid! Shut up!
If there was a pill that I could take that would remove all of the social weird fucking shit that I have problems with when it comes to Asperger's syndrome, it would make it so that I could read facial expressions without a problem. It would make it so that I could look in someone's eyes without finding it fucking weird, because why the fuck do people look in eyes? Eyes are goddamn weird. It is weird looking in someone's eyes. Why the hell is there this... You must look in someone's eyes. If you don't look in someone's eyes, it's rude. It's fucking weird. Their eyes are weird. They're looking back at me. I don't like it. Why? I have to look at someone's nose. I have to look a little bit away from their eyes. But if I had a chance of taking a pill, of receiving a treatment, and it would remove all of that shit.
Yes. Dude,
I would do it in a goddamn instant.
I have the perfect pill. It's the make short guys like Adam tall like Sanguine. And then I can look at you straight at the eye and you don't have to look at me in the forehead.
No. That doesn't help me. That helps you. Looking at your forehead helps me.
Well, I thought it was a good idea.
You know, that's the thing is that, like, someone who is fairly well adjusted like myself can sit there and say, I kind of agree with you on that bit with eye contact too. I can hold someone's, eye contact for a long time, but even I sit there and think that, like, if you stare at someone in their eyes, that's giving off the exact opposite sort of impression. Like, if you want, it's a bit weird. It comes off as a bit timid if you don't keep someone's eye contact. But staring someone and not blinking, maintaining eye contact the entire time, sends the exact opposite response. They're like, God, this guy's a threat to me. What the fuck?
Hold on. Wait.
So,
that's the thing. I don't know which one is which.
Hold on.
I look at the bridge of someone's nose because that's close enough people can't tell. So
you
fuck
guys,
it. That
you guys
works.
don't look straight in. Dude, I look right in the eyes, and as I'm looking at them right in the eyes, I'm like mentally just talking to them like, yeah. Whatever the conversation is, it is a positive, in my favor conversation, and more than less likely, it's been in my favor. So I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Looking at eyes is fucking weird. And
well, for me,
take
it's
something that would get rid of that weirdness. I goddamn would, because I don't know if I'm looking too much at someone's eyes, if I'm looking too little at someone's eyes. I just know it's fucking weird looking at their eyes. So I cheat. I look at the bridge of the nose, and the further they are from me, the further away from their fucking eyes I'm able to look without them.
Well, you know what, Sanguine?
I'm not making eye contact.
the entire weekend while we were out on the camping trip, I didn't even fucking notice because you were wearing your sunglasses like the entire time.
That is true. That is true. Man, now that I think about it, he loves wearing his fucking. It's like, hey, yeah, we recovered these aliens from the spaceship, and it's like, oh, are those their eyes? It's like, no, it's not their eyes. There's just these lenses that they have over their eyes. So then we have to look at you, Sanguine. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You had your eyeglasses and your headset on the whole time.
Yeah, it was one of my cheats.
Holy shit! Are you an Anunnaki?
I cheat by wearing sunglasses and looking at the bridges of noses.
Wow.
That's what JB says. Eyes are the windows to the soul, and they can actually show a lot more emotion than people realize. You're not wrong. The like eye contact and especially like being an artist and having to go through facial expressions and mouth positions for animating and stuff like that. It definitely clues you in on those sorts of things. But I don't necessarily think that it's eye contact that makes it there. It's just being able to read facial cues.
Which
but
I can't. Fuck you.
but I will say that like eye contact, especially in a situation where someone feels worried or scared or something like that, can alleviate those sorts of high stressors, and it's not a bad thing to think about when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, the bad part from that comes from people who have default expressions as their resting face. So, there's some people who they could just be perfectly relaxed and just a calm, natural, neutral face, and somebody be like, "Oh, you got resting bitch face." And it's like, "Oh shit," or "Oh, you look like you're constantly stoned." It's like, well, possibly, but it's a different thing for a lot of different people, But hey, I mean, look, I mean, conditions aside, people, that's something we used to have the ability to discern between these things.
Well, and not only that is that freely talk about it too.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about this stuff is I'm sure it's definitely lifting a burden off of Sanguine's back. I mean, I guarantee you're not going to feel quite so tense around Adam and I after talking about this kind of stuff, right?
The
You
thing
better
is
feel
that
all the scrutiny and all the intensity.
All the scrutiny.
I've been able to talk about this shit for the longest period of time. It's the reason why one of the episodes I did months and months ago was I got as many of the spurgs as I could, and I just had a stream of this is what spurgery is, and it was people with autism, people with spurgery that were talking about what the issues they had were. So it was myself, Samael, Donkey, and a handful of others talking about various things that most people don't really think about or have to deal with. Because, for instance, you guys know Spurg Rage, right? You've at least heard of the concept?
Yeah, well, it's part of the whole autism spectrum sort of thing. It's the inability to control that sort of emotional response given certain stressors.
Is it like a Kaokin stance or?
It's something that pretty much everyone that I had on the Spurg stream talked about, and it was the way that they dealt with anger. Because almost all of us had some element of, I sometimes get pissed off. And most of us had to come up with a means of dealing with getting pissed off, but we couldn't really go about it in the normal way. So, for instance, you guys both know how fucking durable I am. I got in a car wreck and I immediately pop out and I continue on with a camping trip.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's one thing that I like lauded you for. Every single time that we ever bring that up, it's the fact that you got in a car wreck, totaled your car, and you're all like, "No, fuck it, I'm here. I'm like right around the corner. I'm not giving up on this shit. We're gonna still go out camping. We're still gonna have a good time."
Yeah,
so I'm like, "Fuck, man, respect."
Legendary, dude.
I'm
legendary
shit, and part of that durability is probably because of Spurg Rage when I was younger. Because one of the things that I kind of realized at one point is I inadvertently body hardened. Are you guys familiar with the idea of body hardening at all?
You're like the sort of thing where your response is like some people with autism have a thing where they I can't remember what it's called, but it's like fidgeting sort of thing. It's like an autonomic response where they just kind of do it haphazardly, so that they're giving their body something to do, so that their mind can like sort of take a break for a second. So like they'll like clench their hands, or like they'll play with a fidget spinner or something like that.
What you're talking about is what some people call stimming.
Stimming, that's it. Yeah.
Holy shit! Hold on, wait.
I'm talking about is there's an idea of body hardening. It's something that is talked about in martial arts most often.
It's where you tense like all of your muscles all at the same time, try to get as like have all of your muscles clenched into like the pump as hard as you possibly can. Like I get it.
It deals with that, and also just kind of like hitting different parts of the body and
okay.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Getting the nerves desensitized.
Sure.
So one of the things that I've done for ages that seems to be somewhat particular to Spurgs is if something hurts for no fucking reason on my body, most people take it easy on that limb. I punch the shit out of it until it stops hurting. And then I continue on with life. And I've done.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably not that it's stopped hurting. It's the fact that you've kind of not even like deadened the nerve. Well, not deadened the nerve, but like you've overstimulated the nerve that you no longer feel the pain because you've got the endorphins running through your body.
Yeah. So it's something that
I think everyone can sit there and say that they've done something like. I mean, hell, I've done something like that. When I had the muscle spasm in my shoulder. My God, I was going through so much pain that I was to the point where I was like hitting my head against the wall because I wanted anything to get the endorphins into my bloodstream to make the pain stop.
Oh, so I would hit my head, I would be slamming my back into something. Or like if my thigh starts locking up, I'd just start giving some good solid punches to my thigh until it eased up. And when I was angry, when I was younger, one of the things that I would do is I knew that if I hit someone else, even when I was young, I knew I was weirdly strong. I've always been weirdly strong to the point where when I was in pre-K, my brother was 5 years my senior. He would constantly be bitching and moaning about how heavy his backpack was, and I'd just get annoyed. So I'd grab his backpack and I'd go running around with his backpack like it was no fucking problem carrying my shit and his shit, just zooming around the fucking place because I had too much goddamn energy. I've always been weirdly strong. So I knew that I couldn't hit anyone else, so I never hit anyone else. Blunt force trauma can be first aid sometimes, but thankfully I've never had that, and I do not punch those. I avoid punching those. I avoid doing anything to harm those. Those are the one part of me that is not hardened when it comes to body hardening.
Phrasing.
Which is why I said when it comes to body hardening.
Phrasing.
But one of the things that I did when I was younger was if I got really pissed off and I didn't really have a way of dealing with it, and this is something that even... So you know how when someone has a cough, they'll sometimes thump their chest?
Mm-hmm.
And normally it's just kind of a light thump.
Yeah.
So for me, typically that's... Which I'm not sure. Did the mic pick that up?
A little bit. I heard slaps, but distant slaps.
Here, let me move the mic a little bit closer.
Oh, we're hearing the slaps, my guy.
Okay. It's hand straight into the top of my
sternum.
chest.
Yeah.
So it produces this meaty thunk with that slap at the very top.
Mm-hmm.
So I do it with a fair bit of force. And it was just something that when I was really pissed off, it became, okay, I'm pissed off. I need to burn off the anger somehow. Thunk my chest, thunk my legs, thunk my arms. And that way, I burn off the stress. That way, I burn off the anger, but I don't harm anyone.
Yeah.
And that was something that I did when I was very young. Turns out later on, hey, do you know how you do body hardening? You hit it. You hit it against various things that are rather hard, and you hit it at an increasing level of strength until that part of the body just kind of learns sending pain signals is kind of pointless. And congratulations, you've just body hardened. So I found out years later that, oh shit, I was doing body hardening just because I didn't know how to deal with this shit. And then as I got older, I learned better ways of dealing with things, and I figured out better ways of handling when I was angry, when I was stressed out, shit like that. So now I'm relatively calm, as you guys can probably attest. But
I mean, I already said it multiple times, Frosted Glass, but we're...
Oh, you don't even have to edit to sound pervy a good chunk of the time.
Yeah, no edits required, just out of context is all it needs to happen.
I don't know, a good chunk of the time you don't even need out of context. The number of perverted jokes that I've made at various people. I mean, I spent months just anytime Shady said something even slightly off, I would just take it to its worst ends for my own shits and giggles. But yeah, there's the people that end up identifying as I'm a Spurg, I'm this, I'm that. Yeah. You can't judge me because I have this. Fuck you.
Yep. Well, with that, I will bid you guys adieu for now because I need to go and do a couple things here at work before I clock out for the day because I'm leaving early so that I can go to a training thing tomorrow. So,
copy that. You have a good one, man.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd be hearing a whole bunch of noise, and you guys don't want to hear that. So I will talk to y'all later. Have a good rest of the stream.
Frosted Glass wants clips of me saying meaty thunk.
I mean, I can try to comb through it and retrieve that for you, but it'll have to be a little bit later in the day. All right. Take care, everyone.
Have a good one.
Take it easy, dude.
But it seems like it's probably late enough that, unfortunately, Skeptock will not be joining us. So do we want to go into the chat about ancient history and people constantly trying to rewrite this shit?
Sure. What did you have in mind?
So, starting off with the Cleopatra documentary that people are trying to make Cleopatra. I can't really phrase it any other way other than a African-American one. And I don't mean African-American in the way that some people in the US use African-American, where they just mean black. I mean, no. They're trying to make Cleopatra African-American. Because they aren't just trying to make Cleopatra black. They're trying to make her part of the ancestral history of African-Americans. So they're making her black, and they're trying to do the Yas Queen shit with...
Wait, and they're trying to link her to...
Like I said, they're making it the Yas Queen mentality. They're functionally trying to make her African-American rather than just black.
I mean, honestly, at the offset, and I'm sure this will be fairly blunt to people, but when I hear people say that, some like yeah, Cleopatra was black because Egypt is in Africa. I mean, I dismiss this person entirely. You don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. Like,
Yeah,
so it's
she
like,
is Ptolemaic, Macedonian, Greek, Egyptian.
but even at that, like, Egypt
More Middle Eastern
has
than
been such a
black.
diverse area. Yeah, it's like, and they recognized it. You would see it in their art. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and they
they
mentioned it
fully
when they were
understood.
talking about the Nubians,
Well,
which, if
not
you
only that, but
wanted,
when the conquest of Upper Egypt to Lower Egypt, they noted that it was a black, darker skinned pharaoh, like
yep,
because he came from those lands. Like that's they
yeah,
noted it. They
you're
weren't
talking
stupid.
about, and like I said, when it comes to the Nubians, because there was the Nubian conquest of
Well,
Egypt.
the Nubians on themselves with their accolades, so, and they
Yeah,
recognized them. Even the
yeah,
Romans recognized them. It's like,
yeah, and this is the thing that pisses me off the most, that if they wanted to do a story about a historic black queen that fought against everyone else, they had a pre-built one, but they don't know fucking history. They don't care about history. They just know Cleopatra. So they wanted to make Cleopatra black. If they wanted to make an actual black queen story, they could have done, what is it? Queen Amamenas? Amameneras? I think it's Amameneras, right? The Kushite queen. The
I am
Nubian
drawing a blank.
queen from
The
Kush
only one that I'm
fought against
thinking of,
Rome.
like a fog. Oh, no. There was one that I had in mind that pretty much just held the kingdom, the joint Upper and Lower Egypt
Oh, you're
for a bit.
thinking the first female pharaoh, which was why am I blanking? I had her name just a second ago. She was
Hey,
well before Cleopatra.
I'm willing to bet that we're both sitting in front of a computer that we can probably look it up.
Yes,
But
I'm doing it right now.
oh no, I was gonna say, but damn it, we don't need to because it's much more entertaining for.
And the thing is that I know that the moment that I get the answer, it's immediately going to be, oh, son of a bitch, I knew that one.
Oh,
Because
look at
I
wait,
do
did Ty
know
get the answer? Hesput
uh
Hesput.
yeah, that's one of the two. The other one that is also noted a good chunk of the time is Sokunefiru.
Shaniqua.
So
Fuck out of here,
it's
frosted glass.
Hatshepsut, which is the main one. And
Fuck you
there's
mean?
like I said, Soba Kanefiru. I think it's
Oh,
Soba
what?
Kanefiru is the other one. But yeah, Hatshepsut and Sopo Kanefiru are the two Egyptian queens well before.
Dude, that's what gets me though. Is it's not that there aren't any female or queens that did
But I'm saying if they
some
wanted a black
but
queen,
no.
because
But that's what I mean.
those
That's what
two
I mean.
would have still
They
been Egyptian.
no, they go for like the most basic, like, oh yeah, everybody knows who Cleopatra is. So, okay, let's make it her instead of, dude, you can make a whole big story on these other ones that you
Yep.
can expand on it. Like, oh, it just again, it's not so much like, oh man, you're race swapping or whatever. It's, dude, you're
Nefertiti is
being
also
lazy.
another one of the main ones that
Yes,
is
Nefertiti.
mentioned. Yeah, Nefertiti,
You're being lazy in your art.
Hatshepsut,
Do better.
and Sopokanefiru are the three big ones. There's also
Eric,
a
hey, Kefki, that's not funny. Oh, I'm
African
sorry,
king
whatever.
that is one of my favorite parts of weird shit from history. Did you know that there was an African king that collapsed the price of gold to the point where it is a legitimate debate whether the price of gold ever recovered?
Wait, there ever recovered?
Yeah, there's a legitimate argument that gold prices have never recovered from this one African king. There was an African king who went on just a quasi pilgrimage. It was just him going on a massive trip, and as he went on his massive trip, he decided to give money to every area that he passed through. And there's a legitimate debate whether or not gold prices have ever recovered from his one trip. He collapsed the price of gold to the point where people are debating if gold has ever been worth as much as it was before his trip. Do you know which African king it was?
Mufasa.
Unfortunately, you're somewhat close.
Oh.
You got the last syllable right.
Asa.
And you got the first syllable and the last
That's not a syllable, you dummy.
syllable right. Because Mufasa has the first syllable and last syllable of his surname. It was Mansa Musa.
Oh, Mansa Musa.
Yeah, Mansa Musa. There's a legitimate argument whether or not gold prices ever recovered from his one great pilgrimage. He collapsed the price of gold that much. Do you know how fucking ridiculous that is?
That is.
It is absolutely obscene that someone just going on a trip
Beyond the pale.
and giving money in the 1300s could collapse gold prices to this very fucking day. Like I said, it is a legitimate argument that gold prices have never recovered from Mansa Musa's one pilgrimage. That is ridiculous. It is amazing. There's so many fucking stories that you could tell from that one thing right there. You had a king, Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire, technically an emperor, who so splashed out just traveling that he collapsed the global price of gold, and it never recovered. To this day, it has never recovered. There's a legitimate goddamn argument. That is amazing. You want to talk about black leaders that were absolutely ridiculous? That's one of them. You want to talk about black leaders? Go back to, like I said, the Nubian kings, the Nubian queens. There was a Nubian queen that fought the Roman army and did so rather successfully for an extended period of time until eventually they were somewhat subjugated, but they ended up becoming a client state rather than completely controlled by the Roman Empire, which that's fucking saying something when it comes to an enemy kingdom that was able to give Rome enough of a headache that Rome went, okay, you can keep your royalty, just pay us taxes. Rome almost never did that. Rome, for the most part, went, we fucking conquered you. Here's a governor.
Dude, Gabe just exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, Africa has a lot of history. It has a lot of history,
Oh, yeah.
and unfortunately, a lot of it has been diluted based on colonialism and other overlaying conquests, but also just the way that the cultures uh, conducted their preservation of their own histories. Um, so as unfortunate as that is, that's always going to be a turbulent context. Wow. Okay. I think I ran out of my smots winding.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, it is interesting to go and look into it. And I implore a lot of people to go and look into it because
If you wanted a Black Queen from the Roman time frame, go back to Meneniras. She was a Kushite queen. She successfully fought against Rome to the point where Rome went, okay, if you pay us taxes, we won't try to take you over anymore.
yeah.
Which, again, that's ridiculous. Rome didn't do that. Rome normally went, no, we're conquering you. And then we're putting a governor in your place. And that governor's going to rule your entire area. Your entire nation is going to be ruled by that governor
No,
as part of the Roman Empire.
Rome did that when they couldn't really advance any further. You see
Which,
them in the east
yeah,
and the north. So,
that was fairly rare when they did that, was my point.
well, yeah,
But
exactly. But it was they expanded too much that they couldn't fully support where they're going. So
and
it
that
was
was normally in the later period. This was, like I said, Kush. This is just south of Egypt.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't fully even control that aside. I understand what you said. But no, yeah, that was kind of a rare occurrence for the Empire of Rome.
Yeah. They would normally just take an area, go, this is ours, fuck you. And if you want to talk about another area, you could talk endlessly about its ridiculous history. Talk about Ethiopia. Ethiopia has a ridiculous history. It's one of, before Ethiopia had its revolution and fall, in large part, Ethiopia was one of the oldest kingdoms, one of the oldest continuing kingdoms in the world.
Yep.
Ethiopia,
Do they still have the Holy Grail?
well, that was one of the things that I was going to mention. Ethiopia was also not only one of the oldest kingdoms in the world, Ethiopia was one of the longest surviving Christian kingdoms in Africa. It survived through a shit ton of the Islamic expansion, which is, again, something that is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Dude, and just they were right there on the opposite end of the peninsula, and they managed to survive even though the expansion went all the way up to fucking
Spain.
lower France. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's. But hey, no, Ethiopia, South Park, starving little children. Yeah, that's.
But no, let's not talk about actual history when it comes to Africa. Let's instead make a Ptolemaic, Macedonian, Greek, Egyptian, black. Fuck you.
And I don't even understand that they were sitting there saying like, oh yeah, and she was this and that and this and that. It's like, well, yeah, she spoke a lot of languages, but it wasn't like it's like, okay, well,
She wasn't a warrior. She was one of the most ridiculous diplomats of the age.
yeah, and you want to talk even with the military aspect. It's like, she fled the battle when she was fighting alongside Mark Antony.
Yep.
Before he even knew that she was gone. Like, so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, she was not this amazing military leader. She was
Tactician
not
or
this
anything. Like, shit.
warrior queen. She was an absolutely ridiculous
Well, she was young
diplomat.
too, so I mean, you
Yeah,
can't really.
she was young, but like I said, she was a ridiculous diplomat because she spoke, what was it, 7 fucking languages?
Mhm.
And she was able to convince these ridiculous power players
Well, I mean,
to
come on,
come to
dude.
her side. Granted,
Let's
she
be.
did it partially by opening her legs,
I
but
was gonna say, like,
still.
let's be real, dude. Like, it wasn't. She was a person in power, um, and she was also a young female. So it's
I still
as
argue credit where
harsh as
credit
that is.
is due.
It's
Credit where credit is due. When you're able to seduce the most powerful men at their time.
no, not so much seduce. Like they, I have to say, even if she was an ugly old hag, it probably still would have gone through because that would have been a political thing.
See, I disagree. I disagree in large part with that statement because part of the allure was her charm.
No, well, no, that aside, if the stability of Egypt at the time, if Cleopatra was not a young beauty, but she was okay, not an old haggard hag, okay, but she was uh, I don't know,
If
an
she
older
was
lady.
not able to attract the eye of
She was at least able to
Caesar.
conceive a child.
Yeah, but if she was not able to attract the eye of Caesar by being someone that he recognized as a diplomatic power, not a military power, but a diplomatic power, she wouldn't have done anything as near what she was able to do. She wouldn't have succeeded anywhere near to the extent that she succeeded. Because Caesar had a bunch of people that he could choose from. Caesar was most enamored with Cleopatra. Caesar wasn't just enamored by Cleopatra because, oh, she's the Egyptian queen and that makes it easy. Caesar had no problem conquering a people. He was attracted to her for more than just her throne or title. And I think that that's really safe to phrase it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's more of a political aspect, but yeah.
Oh, I would say that the politics was a secondary, maybe tertiary aspect. But like I said, he
Primary
had
aspect. I mean, Egypt was the granary of Rome, so like I said,
it
wouldn't matter
was,
what
but
she
how
looked
many
like.
fucking kingdoms did Rome rely on that Rome could have very easily married into?
He wasn't
Especially at
marrying;
that
he was
time?
conquering by way of siring a new ruler of Egypt that
Which
he would
is
have
kind
command
of what
of.
I was getting at, that he was He could have fucked his way into many a dynasty.
He
Let's
could have,
phrase it that way.
and he might have.
And part of the allure of her was that she was capable, not as a military leader again, but that wasn't what Caesar would have been looking for. Why would Caesar look for a capable military leader? He was a capable military leader. It would make far more sense for Caesar to go for someone that had soft power locked down, which Caesar also had a fair bit of soft power, but he wasn't always able to be there, especially when he was at war, because he was the military power. So pick someone who is capable at soft power. She controls when he's away. That makes perfect fucking sense. It makes... So her facility with language, I think, was a large part. Her charm was a large part. And that's the reason why everyone at the time made a point that she's ridiculously charming. The idea that she was absolutely gorgeous was, in many ways, by all the evidence, greatly inflated, and most of that was added later in histories. Whereas the more contemporary didn't call her gorgeous or beautiful, it called her extremely charming, which meant that she was able to get people to like her. Not that she was just ridiculously hot. Cleopatra was not a proto-ethot. Cleopatra was, though, someone who was willing to use whatever advantage she had, and her advantages were charm and the ability to open her legs. And she was fairly shrewd politically. The fact that Mark Antony didn't win, we all treat like, oh yeah, it was a foregone conclusion. No, the fuck it wasn't.
No, they had a larger navy. The thing though, going back to what sparked it, was that Netflix kind of doubled down too after being called out on it, and you know, that's where it gets into the point of, yeah, you can make these things, but you know, it's when you try and convey it as that's what actually was historical fact, is where, you know, some contention comes in.
And see, I disagree, Funkenstein, because an ethot does things to aggrandize herself, whereas Cleopatra, she was a Ptolemaic ruler. She was using what she had available. And I don't think it would be fair to say that she was doing it just for herself. I think a decent bit was probably for the nation.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you would sit there and try and ping oh, but you know, she wanted to keep her title, keep her rule, keep, you know, all the, you know, status quo of her bit, but at the same end, she was also looking out for the people of her countrymen, you know. So it's, yeah, she was going to be at the top of the pyramid, but she was looking out for the pyramid.
Yep.
And that's where, you know,
nice. I see what you did.
Huh?
Looking out for the top of the pyramid, talking about Egypt.
Look, man, I don't know what.
Was that completely accidental?
But in terms of the e-thoughts, I mean, e-thoughts. I keep saying e-thoughts, like thoughts, or haha, waka waka, as we're talking about, you know, Egypt. Thought, the
well, that's
kiwi
Tock.
bird that taught the knowledge, right? Get
Yeah,
the
that's
fuck outta
tough.
here. Yeah. We know. Do you know? I hope, ladies and gentlemen, we're bringing back the quiz, okay? So at the end of the show, you better have the answers ready for the quiz. But what we were
Don't
talking
make
about...
me go into the great Egyptian divine cum fight.
What are you going to summon Anubis? And there you go. There's another answer for your question. Who is the god of the Egyptian god of the underworld? But oh man, I forgot what I was fucking talking about.
You were talking
As well
about
should be.
Cleopatra.
Oh right, Cleopatra.
But yeah, the fact that they're trying to again just go, well, this important figure from history, clearly black, because they're an important figure from history. Fuck you. And the fact that Egypt is suing them, I find goddamn hilarious. I love that. I love the fact that Egypt is going, yeah, we'll fucking sue you. Fuck you.
Yeah. They don't fuck around, dude.
Yeah. It is amazing that they're saying that they're going to sue Netflix for that. And they
I don't know, but even
damn
then,
well
like,
should, because see, this is the thing that pisses me off. Cultural appropriation, an actual damaging form of cultural appropriation, isn't. For instance, I had a fairly Japanese style dinner. That is not cultural appropriation. That's cultural appreciation. Japanese food, fucking delicious.
hold on,
Japanese liquor,
wait.
fucking delicious. If people decide that they like a hairstyle that was made popular by another culture, that's not cultural appropriation, that's cultural appreciation. Same when it comes to music. You like music from another group, cultural appreciation. Cultural appropriation would, to my mind, only be able to be if you tried to look at another country's history, you tried to look at another group's history, and you go, fuck it, that's my history. Cleopatra, yeah, she's black now. Bach, black. Queen Victoria II, black. The first samurai, black.
That does make a bit more sense.
That would be cultural appropriation, because that's actually trying to steal another culture's history. That's fucked up. Just liking something from another culture, that's perfectly fucking fine. And in fact, if there was nothing from another culture that you liked, that would be more of a sign to me that, okay, you might have some weird fucking opinions about this group.
I mean, like, an appreciation of it even would be just, incorporated. I don't know, like, yeah, just enveloping that aspect of the culture into what you're working with.
Yeah.
And
Like I said,
it's not putting it down, but it's,
lifting it up. It is
yeah.
showing respect for it. If you have a respect for Japanese art and you're a potter of some sort, and you decide that you're going to do an entire line of pots that's based off of Kiritsuke because you find that Kintsuke, because you find that particular Japanese art form rather interesting. For those who don't know, that's the practice of when pottery is broken, fixing the pottery with gold or silver so that it has these absolutely beautiful gold and silver veins where the cracks were. Here, let me pull up a picture of it so I can show you guys what it looks like, because it is something that is beautiful. And if a more European style potter goes, hey, I really like Kintsuke, and I want to make a pottery line that is European in all aspects, except for the fact that once I finish this pot, I'm going to shatter it and then rejoin it with gold. and I'm going to then sell it once it's rejoined with gold, that would be cultural appreciation. That would be cultural appreciation that is not only cultural appreciation, but it is cultural synthesis, which that is the height of appreciation for another culture. When you go, not only do I like this aspect of the culture so much that I want to use this aspect of the culture, but I like this aspect of a culture so much I want it to become part of my culture as well. I'm not taking it from them. I'm not banning them from using it. All I'm doing is I'm adding it to mine. That is
Yeah,
the height
wouldn't
of
that be a
that is the greatest compliment that you could give a culture.
well? I was gonna say, wouldn't that be a benefit for both?
Yeah,
Like it's a win for both.
it's what the original idea of the melting pot was. And I still say I hate the idea of a melting pot because a melting pot doesn't take the original idea far enough. To
Dude,
my
hold on,
mind, what
hold
I
on.
would want is I would want a smelter. I would want a cultural smelter where we melt down all the elements of each culture. We pick the best elements. We
I
fuse
mean,
those
the
together into an
bad is
alloy.
a saint.
And the bad elements rise to the top and we skim those off because they should be discarded.
But
And
hold on,
this is Kinsuke.
I was gonna
This is all that I have
and
displayed.
that pot looks. Hey, look at the triangle.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks nice.
And like I said, the entire idea is that it was broken. And rather than being thrown away, this particular art form or pottery form, I think that it's art form, is meant to show that just because it's broken doesn't mean that it can't be useful and that it can't be even more beautiful after being broken. So what they do is they take precious metals and they use precious metals to fix the broken pottery. And it's able to be used again after that, and it's almost more beautiful, if not more beautiful, after being broken than it was before. It's a fantastic thing. Taking that and doing it with other styles of pottery, that isn't stealing it from the Japanese. It's appreciating that element of culture and synthesizing it into your own work. It's amazing. That's what you want people to do. Appropriation would be stealing the culture, and the way that you steal culture is you go, hey, you know your history, the history that you're proud of, that is the history of your people? Yeah, it's now the history of my people. Fuck you. That, and that alone, to my mind, is appropriation. And that's what they keep on doing.
Yeah, you know, it's such an odd thing. I mean, you can even look at it like in a micro sense of like here in the states, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, a good chunk of what the United States has been, people have tried to sum it up as a melting pot. No, it's a smelter. Throughout most of
Oh shit!
the
You
United
just
States.
reminded me the fucking melting pot shit. Yeah,
Yep.
you know what? Here's the thing though. I don't like onions, but you put that in a fucking soup. I'll eat the soup. Might have an
Nice.
onion flavor, but yeah, it's pretty good.
But yeah, melting pot drives me crazy because, like I said, melting pot, just everything gets melted together and then it forms up. No. I want it to be an alloy. I want it to be that we're a furnace. I want it to be that we're a smelter.
I get what
But
you're
we take
saying.
the best aspects and we keep those and we burn off or skim off all of the debris. And there's cultural debris from every fucking culture. Some cultures are more debris than other cultures, but there's good elements and there's debris of every culture. Get the good elements, include them in American culture, remove the bad elements, burn off anything that is impure from the mix, and make something beautiful. I want to have all the different foods. I want to have the good elements. The industriousness of East Asians is something that everyone should commend.
All the good stuffs.
Yeah. The somewhat restrictive cultural elements of East Asia, I don't think are the best. I would rather not have those elements in American culture. But, like I said, the industriousness, fuck yeah, I want that. And no, that's just Adam's particular bugbear.
What? What's a bugbear?
Your obsession.
Oh, one of those.
with
Hold on, those.
onions.
That's from Dungeons and Dragons, right? Bugbears.
Yes, bugbears are from Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't like those guys. You know, I don't like the what's it, Manticore, where it has a face of a man.
And
Body
Frosted
before.
Glass is trying to make it sound like I'm about to start speaking in mid-century German, I think.
You talking about layers?
No, when he said, remove the bad elements, I think I'm picking up what Sanguine is putting down. Yeah, there's bad elements of culture, there's good elements of culture. The creativeness of the American culture is ridiculous. I absolutely love it. The increase in violence of American culture, because we do have an increase of violence. There's no denying that we have an increase in violence in American culture. I mean, our crime rate is several times that of other equally developed nations. That is not a positive aspect of America. That isn't saying, well, we need to get rid of guns, or we need to get rid of that, or restrict this freedom or that freedom. No, fuck that. I'm not for that shit either. But we need to be able to recognize a problem and address a problem. And the first part of that is, yeah, our crime rate is shocking.
Well, I mean, it's gonna take. We have to get to a point, unfortunately, where the average person is gonna be looking at this stuff, and instead of sitting there saying, "Ha, yeah, that's a shocker, man, that's a bad thing that's happening," but you know, I gotta go about my business. It's gonna get to the point.
What we need to do is we need to get people to do two things. First thing that we need to get people to do is have a mentality of shit or get off the pot when it comes to voting in politicians. And what I mean by shit or get off the pot is, if I've elected you to do something and you don't, I'm not giving you my vote again. If I've elected you to work towards an end and you have given no effort towards working towards that end, I'm not going to vote for you. That's what shit or get off the pot means. Unless the person that you're voting for has made an obvious effort to do what you voted for them to do, don't vote for them again. They do not deserve your vote. The other aspect that we need to make normal is we need to go back to when we put something in place for a particular reason, not just politicians, but when we enact a new law, when we enact a new course of action, look to see whether that course of action had the effect that we wanted it to have. If it did, fantastic. Keep it. If it didn't, get rid of it. Don't try to make excuses for why it should stay. Don't just ignore that it was there. Get rid of it, especially if it makes the situation worse. If a solution doesn't fix the problem, it isn't a solution. Get rid of it. What we currently do is we'll come up with a solution. It doesn't work. So we'll just leave it there and we'll try to come up with a new solution that doesn't work. And then we'll try to come up with a new solution and it doesn't work. We're just bloating the system. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I would wholeheartedly agree with Frosted. That was he perfect? No. He had a lot of problems. Did he at least try to make shit work the way that he said that he wanted to? Abso-fucking-lutely. Which put him head and shoulders above the average politician. Do I think that he had problems? Yeah, I think that there were problems. I think there are things that he could have pushed harder for. I think there are things that he could have responded in a more fitting way to. But on the whole, I was rather happy with it. Yeah, he liked the US, and that's something that should be easy to say about every president, but it isn't.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to have to admit that, I guess. Right?
Yeah. It's sad to have to say that there are presidents that have been presidents within my lifetime that I'm looking at and I'm going, I'm pretty sure that if he had the ability to have lived anywhere else, he would have. If he had the ability to make the US something entirely different, he would have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a good chunk of the time being right when you're being the Cassandra. For those who don't know, the reference there, Cassandra in mythology was a prophetess of doom. She didn't want to predict doom, just all of her predictions were doom, and her predictions came true. And she was punished for predicting doom. It's no fun being Cassandra. But you're right fairly often being Cassandra. And that's infuriating. Like I said, if I had one thing that I could change, it would be shit or get off the pot. Immediate. I would have everyone swap their voting over to shit or get off the pot. Yeah. No one would believe Cassandra, though Cassandra was always predicting the truth, and her predictions were always of doom. So if anyone had listened, they might... Well, this is where the weird part of Greek mythology comes in. If people had listened, they might have been able to change fate, but the way that Greek mythology worked, they probably wouldn't have been. They would have been able to try to and failed and caused the problem to result anyways. But I just realized the time. Shall we continue with this topic, or do you think that we've milked it for all it's worth?
Oh, 2 hours.
Yep.
I think we've covered just about all we could cover on this topic.
Fair enough. Do we have any other topics that we want to jump into, or shall we call it a night?
I don't know. Do you want to talk about the underground honeycombs that house the lizard people?
Not tonight.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I guess I don't know. That's what I had on my topics list. So,
So, parting words then?
um, well, shit. Thanks for letting me hang out with you,
Always fun.
and hope Quiz doesn't have a bad rest of his work day or work evening.
It was
But
good to have him pop in.
yeah, it was fun. It's always fun having him join in when he's at work. um,
And Frosted Glass says, "Don't get me started on the underground honey lizards."
next time, Frosted. Next time. But hey, thanks. Speaking of which, thanks chat for hanging out. And yeah, make sure to check us out on Monday when we'll be playing some games with Kefki and Terry.
And JB would like to thank us for the edutainment for the night.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, I hope you learned something. And next time we're gonna have a quiz. Damn it.
Well, we had a quiz early. Just Quiz had to get out.
A second quiz with Scantron. So bring your number 2 pencils.
And I'll leave off with my standard of, if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And with that, have a good night, all. The zoo is closed.
Good night.
And now I click this, and I wait a few moments as it actually logs that I've actually